More rivalry week coverage right here at the Voice of College Football. Welcome in. We're talking Clemson, South Carolina, Palmetto State. How about that? Here we go with Jason Priester, our guy from allclemson.com on SI. Jason, it's always good to see you. How's it going today?
It's going pretty well, man. How about you, Mark?
I am doing just fine. So let's dive into this one before we get to the particulars of the 2022 matchup. Just talk about what this means to people that live in South Carolina. How would you shape this one based on, how you've grown up in it, covered it, and obviously it's had its ebbs and flows. South Carolina won 5 straight, and now Clemson's dominated ever since.
This game means everything for the people in this state. There's no professional team here, like there are in a lot of other states. I think it's probably one of the most intense in-state rivalries in the country. It doesn't get the same kind of publicity that, say, Auburn, Alabama gets, but the emotions surrounding this game probably rival the emotions that surround that game. It's just these two teams haven't been quite as nationally relevant throughout the years as some of these other teams in these other rivalries, so it doesn't get the national play that some of these other games get. But for the fans in this state, this game is what it's all about. It's bragging rights, 365 days a year. And man, it's fun to be a part of.
Yeah, Jason Priester on the line from allclemson.com. Get on over there. This is the week to do it, to get prepped for the big South Carolina game and on into the ACC championship game against North Carolina. All right, Jason, did that South Carolina effort against Tennessee get anybody's attention?
Yeah, I think it got everybody's attention, man, and caught everybody kind of by surprise. This was an offense that really couldn't move the ball at all against Florida, scored 6 points. I don't remember what all the numbers were, but I know they struggled to move the ball down, up and down the field, period. And Tennessee comes in and they just throttle them. The fifth-ranked team in the country, hanging 63 on them. Probably Spencer Rattler's best game of his collegiate career. I think it's gotten everybody's attention. I know it got the players' attention and the coaches' attention inside that Clemson football facility. They talked a little bit about it yesterday. Co-defensive coordinator Mickey Kahn talked about being caught a little bit off guard with that performance from South Carolina. But no doubt it has been talked about.
And that's the interesting thing, because we've got a Clemson team that is so rock steady, and certainly not, at least through this part of the season, not a vintage Clemson team like an all-time great team, but certainly a top 5 to 10 team in the country. They seem to pretty much give you the same effort, maybe outside that Notre Dame game. Every week it's going to be this, it's going to be this. And then the South Carolina team comes in and they're topsy-turvy all over the place. They can score 10 points against Mizzou and lose that game. Then they come out against Tennessee and they go crazy. That makes for an interesting matchup just in regards to the wild card status of this Gamecock team.
Yeah, it's been interesting to follow this South Carolina team this year. The fans have been real intent on Marcus Satterfield not being back as offensive coordinator next year. The offense has just struggled that much. And then they come out with a game like this, and now you see all the theories being thrown out that Satterfield suddenly wasn't calling the plays Saturday, which I don't buy for a minute. But it is definitely crazy, and it's got to make it that much harder to prepare for this team if you're in Clemson's spot, because you just don't know which team's going to show up. Do you get the Spencer Rattler that we saw Saturday night, or do we get the one we saw down in Gainesville? They kind of been a Jekyll and Hyde team this year. They've looked good in spurts, and then they've looked terrible in spurts.
He is a guy that has the talent to show what he showed last week, but he just doesn't deliver consistently. That's just all there is to it. We saw that at Oklahoma, and now we see that at South Carolina. So we'll see if he's going to be hot 2 weeks in a row. And obviously he got a ton of help on the outside, and his offensive line did the job. So Is there anything that you got from the Miami game that changes your mind about Clemson at all from the outside? Not that I took in every play of the game, but from the outside, it appeared as though, well, that's what I expected. That's Clemson going out there with the lunch pail and doing its work, getting the job done, and taking care of business.
The biggest thing that I took away from the Miami game is Wes Goodwin has been talking all year about wanting to see a full 4-quarter performance from that defense. And I think Saturday he saw it for the first time. It was a very aggressive game plan, second week in a row. I think that defense has really responded since that terrible outing up in South Bend. And one of the biggest keys to the turnaround, Barrett Carter moved inside to wheel linebacker to fill in for an injured Trenton Simpson against Louisville. And he was just so good that when Simpson came back last week against Miami, they left Carter there and moved Simpson back out to Sam, where he's played the previous 2 seasons. And Simpson responds by having his best game of the year. I think he had a couple of sacks, but he's so dynamic. You can use him in so many different ways, but he is at his best when he's not having to line up inside and fight through traffic. He's out there on the edge and he's playing in open space. And we saw that on Saturday, and the defense looked different. It for the first time all season, for 4 quarters, this defense resembled the group that many, including myself, expected it to be coming into the season. And if Clemson can get that kind of effort again this Saturday, that'll go a long ways towards getting them their 8th straight win over South Carolina.
Folks, we ask that you'd like the video, and you can share these videos out on social media because you enjoy them. Other people will as well that aren't aware that we're here talking Clemson football with Jason each and every week. And subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football. Get on over to allclemson.com on SI. Check out Jason's work as Clemson prepares for South Carolina and the ACC championship game after that. Seems to be some hope out there that Bo Collins is going to get back in the lineup on Saturday.
Yeah, Dabo Sweeney said today they expect Bo Collins back. He was back on the depth chart. Brian Brissy, he also missed the Miami game. He was sick last week. He'll be back. But Clemson's biggest thing on offense the past few games has just been the turnovers. They put the ball on the ground. I think it was 5 times against Miami. They only lost 3 of them, but they put it on the ground 5 times. And that's alarming. And it's not just one guy, it was spread out. And I think it's the 4th game in a row that they've lost the turnover margin. And that at some point that's going to catch up with you. As much of an advantage of playing at home and Death Valley gives Clemson, if you're turning the ball over and not forcing a lot of turnovers, you're kind of nullifying that advantage at times. That game against Miami would have easily been much worse if Clemson doesn't shoot themselves in the foot with the multiple turnovers. And they've got to get that cleaned up. If they don't, it's going to catch up with them at some point, whether it be this week, next week, or in the postseason. But at some point, they cannot keep losing the turnover battle week after week and expect to keep winning football games.
Jason, does this game historically impact recruiting? And do you expect this specific game that's going to be played on Saturday to impact any recruiting battles?
It's kind of more specific to the guy. It might have an effect on some of the in-state guys, but they grew up rooting who they rooted for, and they tend to lean that way. Not all of them, some of them, but I do think if you're South Carolina, this game can probably help you from a recruiting standpoint more so than it does Clemson. Clemson's an established brand. One loss isn't going to hurt them too bad. Clemson's 2023 class is all but locked up. I think there's one in-state guy still left on the board, and I'm not even sure he's got a South Carolina offer. He's a wide receiver out of Greenville, and his name's Tyler Brown. He announces on Thursday. I fully expect he'll commit to Clemson, but he's a former Minnesota commit actually. But it just depends on who you're talking about. I mean, it's always better to win the game. Make no mistake, that's always a bullet you want to have in the chamber, so to speak, to use out there in your pitch on the recruiting trail. But I think if we're talking this game this year, I think South Carolina has more to benefit in that regard than Clemson does.